Hey everybody. First off, thank you for taking the time to click on this video. I appreciate that. Today I'm going to be showcasing my Spider-Man collection. Now, what I'm showing today is only books that I have graded by CGC. I do have some raw Amazing Spider-Man books, but they're not graded yet, and it gets kind of hard to put everything on my tiers of value. As of that, that's how I have everything sorted. It's going by lowest value to highest value instead of doing a number run and everything like that. It gets a little bit sporadic when you start getting into these titles. Now, I don't have a ASM 129. I used to. I had a ASM 129 7.0, but I sold that with a 7.5 Tomb of Dracula 10, which is first appearance of Blade. I sold both of those to pay for my wife's engagement ring. So at that point in time, I needed that. So at some point I'll get 129 back, but for now he is not in this stack. So with that, I'm going to jump into this and get things rolling for you. Right off the bat, this is considered the lowest value out of all my graded books. It is Amazing Spider-Man 365. A little bit of a glare, but this is the first appearance of Spider-Man 2099. This is graded at a 9.4. I hate 9.4s. The value in between a 9.2, a 9.4, and a 9.6, 9.2 and 9.4, there's no difference. 9.4, 9.6, most of the time it's like 25% difference. So I don't like 9.4s. At some point, I'm going to get a 9.6 or a 9.8, but for now, at least I have this placeholder. Next up, we've got Venom vs. Carnage number 2. This is where Patrick Mulligan becomes Toxin. Let's see this a little bit better. So technically, it's first full appearance of Toxin. This is a pretty cheap, affordable book. You can pick this up graded or not graded for really cheap right now. I want to say whenever I was pricing things out, this 9.0 you could pick up for like 45 bucks. So good entry level. So Amazing Spider-Man 793 at a 9.6. There is nothing significant about this book at all. It has Venom, Anti-Venom, Maniac, Black Cat, and Maniac appearance. But the reason I have this in my collection is Spider-Man is dual-wielding Desert Eagles. And I love Desert Eagles. That's probably my favorite look aesthetically for handguns. Next up, you have Amazing Spider-Man 42, which is Mary Jane's face revealed for the first time in cameo on the last page, which is, for Spider-Man, it's an iconic panel. It's you know what I'm talking. If you're watching this video, you know what I'm talking about. So that's good. Now I have Amazing Spider-Man 28, which is the first appearance of the Molten Man. This is at a 2.5. It's not anything spectacular. And whenever this one had gotten graded, I bought this already graded. I didn't do it. The issue with the grading is it has, I forget what they're calling, but it's got that rainbow effect on it. So I'm not the biggest fan of that, but this is a good placeholder. Eventually, I want to trade up and get a 7.0 in this book. But for now, it's cool. Now, this book was really hot for a while. It has since calmed down, which I'm not quite sure as to why, because it seems like it would still hold its value. But we have Amazing Spider-Man 654, where it's the death of Marla Madison Jameson and Flash Thompson becomes Venom. So pretty much it's first Agent Venom. Now this is the second print variant cover, which is beautiful. Now, I did not get this pressed or cleaned or anything like that. That was before this was ever a commodity. So at some point, I might resubmit this, because it should get to at least a 9.496. But that's just kind of high risk, high reward. I don't want a 9.4. I'd rather have a 9.0 than a 9.4. Then we've got Amazing Spider-Man 252 at a 9.2. And I didn't know this when I was going through my stack, but it's actually a newsstand variant. And this is the first black costume, the first symbiote costume, and the title for Amazing Spider-Man 252. So it's not the first costume, but it's the first one in that title. Next up, we've got Amazing Spider-Man 41 at a 4.0, which is first appearance of Rhino. If you want a good starter key for Amazing Spider-Man run, this is a great pickup. The reason why is you can get a higher grade of this book for reasonably cheap, especially when you start getting into some of these other books here and some of the more established villains for Spider-Man. You have Rhino, an established character, high grade, low cost. Get it all day long. And I've got one more book that I would say is my spec for good Spider-Man pickups, at least right now with the market being sporadic. But I'll get to that whenever we get to that book. So next up, we've got Amazing Spider-Man 194, which is the first Black Cat. This book has holds, or I'll rephrase that. It has maintained its value for at least 3 to 4 years. It hasn't gone up. It hasn't depreciated a whole lot. There's very little variance. But, as soon as they cast Black Cat or Felicia Hardy in an MCU movie, it'll go up for about 3 months, and then you won't hear anything else. So whenever they do announce that, do not spec on that book, because it's going to go back down. It's not going to go up and stay there. It's stupid. Next up, this book has tripled since the comic book spike of 2020, the great comic book spike of 2020. But we have Marvel's Superhero Secret Wars number 8 at a 9.6. Again, not clean to press. Could roll a dice on it, hopefully get a 9.8. Mine's a 9.6, which I'm happy with. But this is the origin of the alien symbiote that eventually becomes Venom, also known as the first Black Spider-Man suit. I love this book. Iconic, classic cover. And you can get that book cheap. If you start looking, it's still possible to be found at antique stores or your local comic shop. I know when we had our shop here in Monroe, we went through 4 or 5 of those, and you could get it for about $50. Now, grade, you can roll your dice, but if you want to get it to have in your collection as a starter, you can't go wrong with that. Now, this next book, I jumped on the hype train like everybody else, but I did not shell out the money for a 9.8 because I'm cool with having a 9.0. At least I have it, So I've got a 9.0, Venom number 3, signed by Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman. It was almost signed on my birthday this year, so that would have been pretty cool, but that did not happen. So you've got first full appearance of Null. Null's big this year. He might stay big, he might not. You never know. Now, my next starter book, if you want to start getting into Amazing Spider-Man, is going to be Amazing Spider-Man 20, which is the first appearance of the Scorpion, Matt Gargan, also known as Virus, because Virus was a book that everybody was specking on earlier, and it turned out to be this guy who was already an established character. So, but this one is at a 3.0. A 3.0 is like 200, between $200 and $300. You can get 0.5s or 1.0s for probably $150, which that might seem a lot. That might seem like nothing, but if you want to have a good key Amazing Spider-Man book, you cannot go wrong with first full Mary Jane, because she had 3 cameos, first full Rhino, and then first Scorpion. Those 3 are safe right now, and that'll only appreciate over time. Next up, this book's kind of got a story. So I've got Amazing Spider-Man 298. It's double signed. The only reason that this book is stacked in my higher value on this run is because it's double signed. So what that means is it's signed by both Todd McFarlane and Stan Lee. So if you're not familiar with who Todd McFarlane is, Todd McFarlane revolutionized Spider-Man for the 90s. When it comes to favorite artists, if you're a 90s kid, most of the time he's one of your top favorite artists. And with this issue in particular, it was the first time that Todd McFarlane worked on Spider-Man. And it's also the first, is it a cameo or full? Yeah, first cameo, Eddie Brock. Later on becomes Venom. But whenever I knew I wanted this book, but I specifically wanted it signed by both Stan Lee and Todd McFarlane, just for collector purposes. But I love having this book. Next up, we've got Amazing Spider-Man number 6, which is the first full appearance of the Lizard. I keep saying full, so my bad. It's first appearance. There is no fulls when you get into this stuff. And the good Silver Age greatness. So this is a 2.5. Again, not clean or pressed, but I probably would not do it because I think it has a staple tear. But either way, I have it. I love it. Love the green and purple. Great cover. Next up, we've got Amazing Spider-Man 13, which is the origin and first appearance of Mysterio. This one's restored. If it was not restored and it still was in this grade, it would be a little bit of a higher value, but no biggie. The restoration on this one has a small amount of color touch on cover with tape on the interior. No big deal. Beautiful cover. Alright, had to separate this stack. Next up, you've got Amazing Spider-Man 361. Higher value because it's signed and sketched by Mark Bagley. So you got first Carnage, and it's kind of hard to tell because of the glare, but with the recent signing that Mark Bagley did, it's got a big, nice sketch of Carnage on the front. So, little hyped up, but that's a reasonably affordable book if you look in the right places. Next up, we've got Edge of Spider-Verse #2, which is first appearance of the new Spider-Woman at a 9.6. Now, when we had our comic shop, this sat in the shop the entire time from the day we opened to the day we closed. Nobody picked this up. It was priced at $265, which was reasonable. It wasn't anything ridiculous. Now you cannot get this book that cheap. So, I'm cool to have it. It's available. If you're interested, hit me up. Next up, we've got Amazing Spider-Man #9, which is first Electro. It has restoration, which has a small amount of color touch on the cover. Probably get that bumped back down to a 3, depending on how much it is. But the cover's complete. The back is complete. All I care about is in this stack. That's all I care about. Next, this is my favorite, probably my favorite comic book cover, period. But I have Amazing Spider-Man 50, which is the first appearance of the Kingpin, and I love this cover. Now, whenever I got it, I received it, and the slab was all cracked and damaged. I was supposed to get a refund for a reholder. I never did. I'm not tripping out on it. Now, this book, at some point, I will get in a 7. Just may not be anytime soon, but I do want a 7.0 of this book. So if you have one, hit me up. We'll trade. Next up, this book's starting to get popular, is Amazing Spider-Man 15 at a 3.5. First appearance of Kraven, second appearance of Chameleon, and the first mention of Mary Jane. And I think that's like Aunt May saying, like, hey, you should meet my niece, nephew, whatever it is. Again, could go for clean and press, but I know this one has a staple tear. I'm not worried about it. It's complete. It's vibrant. I like it. For what this issue number is, it's calmed down immensely. Because it's Amazing Spider-Man #2, which is the first appearance of the Vulture and the Terrible Tinkerer. Now, this is an old CGC label, like one of the old ones whenever they first were getting going. It's off-white pages. I would probably not resubmit this because it's not, doesn't say it does, but I can look at this and spot out brittle pages, and I don't feel comfortable trying to mess with that, especially when they remove it from the plastic. It's probably just going to stay just like how it is. But we've got Amazing Spider-Man #2, First Vulture. Next up, love this one too. It's Amazing Spider-Man 14, first appearance of Green Goblin at a 3.0, white pages. This one I would roll the dice on getting it pressed and cleaned just for a bump, but best case scenario, we bump to a 4. I would like this book in a higher grade, but this one presents, I'll even take it out. This one presents super well. But this one presents, I'll even take it out. This one presents super well. It's very clean. All the colors are great. I have to redo that now. But it presents super well. The colors are stunning on it. I'm glad to have this book. This is probably one of my personal most valued ones. Next up, the only reason, I'm in the top 3 by the way. The only reason this is in the top 3 of this Amazing Spider-Man run is because it's signed and it's newsstand. But we've got ASM 300, first full appearance of Venom, signed by Todd McFarlane, and its newsstand at a 9.4. I had this at a 9.2 when Todd McFarlane did his signing with CGC I let them press it, and it came back a 9.4. Awesome. Next up, we've got Amazing Spider-Man number 3, which is the first appearance of Dr. Octopus. This cover is complete. It says it has tape stains on it, but you really can't tell. You have to be looking pretty hard for it. But presentation-wise, this one's beautiful. Last book for this Amazing Spider-Man collection. I never thought I would have this book. It was never on the top of my list to ever get. But this year, I happened to sell 2 of some high-end statues, and when I got that money, some weird things happened. I happened to find this book, and I only had to throw in $100 to come home with it, so I was cool with that. But I have Amazing Spider-Man number 1 at a 1.5. Now, I have a Hulk 1 restored as well with a matching grade, so I'm happy with that. Now, this one has pretty much extensive restoration on it, which goes with color touch on the cover, pieces added to the cover, glue on cover, moderate amount of tape on cover, pieces married to the cover with tape. It's had some work done. It's got like plastic surgery work done. The only flaw to it, to me, is it has a J over the issue number. So where it should say number 1 right here, there's a big old hefty J on it. Outside of that, it looks great. So I'm happy with that. And that is my graded Amazing Spider-Man CGC Collection. It took forever to try to sort this out. But now that it's all sorted, it's organized now, I'm cool with it. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I have 3 more I'm going to make probably within the next week. I have a stack of X-Men graded books, Batman graded books, as well as random keys, but the random keys add up to be pretty impressive. So I'm going to have that coming out in the next week. I know me and Dustin should be having a huge, expensive mail call come in. So as soon as we get that in, we're going to get it built and we'll put it on here. But thank you guys so much. If you can spot out which villain I'm missing in this run, I'll mail you a comic book for free. So that's my challenge. If you've made it this long and you can spot out which villain I'm missing, I'll mail you a comic book for free. So please drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Is your collection better than mine? Hit me up. Thank you.